Hi YouTube, Regina here from Simply Fundamental. So today's topic, I wanted to talk to you about why you're potentially living paycheck to paycheck. And no, it's not lifestyle inflation. Chances are you've been living paycheck to paycheck a long time, and it's a cycle that you haven't been able to break. And so while a lot of people may blame it on lifestyle inflation when your income rises and your spending matches to suit, when you're spending on luxury items that you once perceived as luxury are now necessity, when you have the mentality that you deserve it, you work really hard, and that you start to see what other people have and you want to live up to that lifestyle that you think you should be enjoying for yourself. And when your lifestyle takes priority over investing and saving, that's when lifestyle inflation comes into play. But I think what happens with living paycheck to paycheck is it starts a lot earlier on. Like in the case with myself, immediately out of the gate, I was living paycheck to paycheck. While there are some similarities with lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep, there mostly it's there are differences. And so while lifestyle inflation can be fueled by debt accumulation, where you're spending more to fund the lifestyle that you want, when you're first starting out at the gate and you move out on your own and you become an adult, there are some things that you do buy just to live your life. Like, for instance, when I became an adult and I purchased my first car, I didn't have the financial education to understand what that debt was costing me. And so, not having the financial education is what led me to live paycheck to paycheck. And of course, fall prey to predatory lending. So, for instance, my first car payment, my first true car payment, was for a new car. Back in 1989, I got a 1990 Nissan Stanza. And prior to hitting record on this video, I looked at what my car payment today would be, what the equivalent of my car payment would be today. And back from in 1990, my car payment was $399 a month. That is the equivalent of $963 a month in a car payment. What 20-year-old can afford that? I was going to school. I was accumulating student loan debt. I was also paying for part of the classes. I was living with roommates, so my rent was pretty reasonable. My rent was actually lower than my car payment. But then there are other costs associated with buying a car that those who are not really financially educated don't really consider. Like, oh, okay, so you're going to have to pay a insurance on the car or maintenance on the car or just upkeep, cleaning the car, oil changes. That cost a lot. In fact, it cost me so much that I wasn't able to pay all my bills. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And so I lapsed on my car insurance. I couldn't pay all my bills. I was late on often on some of the car payments. And so that in turn led to late fees and just having to get insurance on my car after lapsing on my car. They charge you a fee, a daily fee, just to get yourself back into the status where you could pay for car insurance. So it doesn't go like, oh, geez, I didn't pay my car insurance. Let me start again. No, you have to catch up on the missed days of insurance. And so then the fees on being late, the fees associated with just having to pay motor vehicles to even process me getting new insurance. So there's a cost associated with not being good with money. And that could hit you in ways of things like having higher interest payments on the debt you're carrying, as far as the interest rates that you have on your loans, as far as the banking fees you get, the go overdraft fees, because maybe you're not going to get as much credit. And so then, therefore, you're going to go into overdraft. It goes on and on. So, yeah, I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I think it took me many years to get out of this cycle. And yes, I did start to make more money, and lifestyle inflation creeped in there as well for me a little bit. I definitely had a little bit of the I deserve it mentality. But from the onset, I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I bet chances are many people are too. And that's what happens is it is a cycle that starts, that continually repeats, because you fall prey to predatory lenders who will give a loan to a 20, 21, 22-year old on more than they can afford. And even if you were not initially living paycheck to paycheck, chances are when you purchased your first home, you might have purchased a home on the top end of what lenders told you you could afford. And that itself caused you to potentially be living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not necessarily something that starts initially for everyone, but it's something that could happen to anyone, because the decisions we make with not understanding all the ramifications for what we're purchasing, all the hidden costs related to those purchases, because it isn't just the cost of the home, it is the taxes and the maintenance and the furnishing of the home. All those costs are not there for the naked eye to see. And so, even if you weren't living paycheck to paycheck in the beginning, chances are somewhere along the line you fell trap to a predatory lender, and because of lack of financial education, didn't understand what that loan was going to cost you, the fact that the taxes could go up, the maintenance fees could go up, what does a new roof cost, all those kind of things. And now you're living paycheck to paycheck. So, not necessarily lifestyle creep. You might have not upgraded your home, but the cost associated with that home ownership has hit you hard. And let's say you're renting. Even the cost of renting has gone up over the years. So, obviously, the cost of living on all things have. But if you weren't taught the proper ratio on what your bill should be, then you might have ended up in a situation that I was in. My first apartment, where I didn't have roommates, it was $650 a month, and I only brought home 700. And yes, I did save. I saved in my retirement early on, so I did make some good decisions in the face of making a ton of bad decisions. But that one good decision I made didn't fix the other decision. It wasn't until I started to peel back and reverse some of the decisions that I made. And one of those was I couldn't live on my own. I couldn't afford to rent a place and not work 7 days a week. So the price of renting an apartment was too much for one income. And so I had to go get a second job to be able to have car payments, student loan, debt repayment, credit card debt repayment, just to try to get out of the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. And so I had to take a step back, look over the income I had coming in, the expenses I had going out, and I had to make some hard choices. And that may be what you need to do as well. Maybe if you have a 3-bedroom home, you have to scale down and move into an apartment temporarily till you get your bills down where you're living within your means and you improve your lifestyle at the step where it really makes more rational sense financially. The ratios in which we live, the living 50, 30, 20, at least when you're first starting out, that all your needs fit within 50% of your income, your take home income, that is, and that 30% is wants and 20% is savings. And savings would be your 401k, saving for a home. But I would choose to reverse that. I would do 50, 20, 30. So you're saving, especially if you have debt payment that you're going to pay off, that you're doing that. But you have to go back to where you were in the beginning and make different decisions, because the decisions we make early on, especially when it comes to big finances, the big financial ones, that is, can hit and cause anyone at any time, regardless of their income, to be living paycheck to paycheck, because it's about what you're spending. And if your spending exceeds what you have coming in, then you have to look at your income, look at your expenses, and figure out ways to reduce the spending. In my case, I got a roommate. I ended up moving in with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and I ended up paying the rest of my next car payment, or probably was several car payments later. I had a 271 car payment a month that I paid off, and I eventually gave that car away, and we became a one-car household. And so I made several big decisions of going back to having a roommate, getting rid of my car, getting the ratio of my spending back in sync with that, aligned with my paycheck. And I still kept that second job until I paid off debt and saved for a down payment, and then improved our lifestyle to where we bought a home, our starter home that we're in now, until it fit within the means of what we could afford. And thankfully, we didn't fall prey to buy above the top end of what the mortgage lenders told us we could afford. Because had we done that, I still could be living paycheck to paycheck today. That would have been a bad decision, that because I wasn't financially educated completely at the time. Well, I was at that point, but had I made the decision to buy at the top end of what they told us we could afford, that would have been a bad financial decision. And we made one that made us live within our means, to ensure that we were living within those ranges, to ensure that we were saving for our retirement. The financial decisions we make early on cause us to live paycheck to paycheck. And then the repercussions of some bad decisions we made, maybe not having great credit scores, cause us to have higher interest loans, cause us to become dependent on debt to sustain our lives, is a reason why people are living paycheck to paycheck. And yes, there are other things associated in there as well that cause people the feeling they deserve it, which I too did for a time frame while I was living paycheck to paycheck, causes people to continue that cycle. So if you're finding yourself in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, look at your early decisions. Look at the loans that you had. It's not your fault, but it doesn't have to continue. You have to lower your expenses. You have to get your spending in line within your means and only improve your lifestyle or make lifestyle improvements, that are within your means. And you increase your savings as you go along, as I did in my last video trying to explain. So anyway, I don't think it's lifestyle inflation that causes people to live paycheck to paycheck. I think it's the decisions we make early on that have a profound effect on our finances, and they hit us from years, and sometimes it even ages with it. That debt, that cycle of debt, the predatory lending, it's causing you to live paycheck to paycheck. What 20-year-old can afford a $963 a month for a starting out car payment? That's predatory lending 101. Well, this is Regina from Simply Fundamental. I hope everyone is doing well and they had a lovely holiday. And hit me up in the comment section if you experience predatory lending and what you did to get out of it. How did you get yourself back on track? And how you broke the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.